So now that you've cast off, you're going to be left with your edge and then two tails, one at the top and one at the bottom of the work. So I'm going to show you today how to weave in the ends of the tails so that it sits invisibly and that you don't have this loose end hanging out. So you want to thread the loose end of yarn through the tapestry needle that's included in your kit. It has a nice wide eye, so it shouldn't be too difficult. And what we're going to do is, following the pattern of the knitting, we're going to guide the yarn through the stitches so that it sits nice and securely, so it won't come undone and it'll be a nice neat finish. So we're going to start by taking the needle on a 45-degree angle, so 45 degrees like this, a nice diagonal, and we're going to loop it under the purl stitches going on this diagonal. So the purl stitches are the ones sitting on top. It's difficult to see in the video, but if you stretch your knitting, you'll be able to see that there's a bottom loop which creates a kind of V shape, and then holding this in place is a little bump, and that little bump is what's called a purl stitch. So we're going to find these running on the diagonal, and we're going to pass the needle under and through about 5 of them. So there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see I've gone through the kind of top purl bump on each row, and now I'm going to pull through. Don't worry too much if you can't find the exact line. It's all going to be hidden in the end. The important thing is just to space it out evenly. Now when you pull it through, you want to pull it so it's sitting nice and straight underneath the stitches, but it's not too tight. Now we're going to go back the other way. So we're going to pivot the needle back around 180 degrees, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pass it under the purl bumps on a diagonal, running parallel to that that stitch that we've just made. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 4 here instead of 5, just so that the tail that I'm cutting doesn't hang out off the edge of the work. It doesn't matter too much, it just needs to be secure. So there we go, I've done the same thing again. I've passed it back parallel on the diagonal underneath all the purl stitches. And now I'm going to take my little scissors and I'm just going to snip it off. Be careful not to cut the knitting behind it. And there you go, we've got a nice secure woven in end that's almost invisible now and that won't come undone. The important thing now to remember as well is that this becomes what's called the wrong side of your work. So you can imagine, in the same way that you wear a t-shirt and you've got the right side which goes on the outside, and then the wrong side is the inside that sits next to your body. It's the same with the piece we've just created. So the right side is the side with no woven in ends, which is all finished off neatly. And the wrong side is the side that's slightly rougher in terms of finishing, so it's the side where we weave in our ends and do any seams that we need to. So when you do the other end, when you do your other tail, for example at the bottom end here, you just want to make sure that you're weaving in that tail on the same side as the other end, so that the wrong side is consistent across the work. You don't want to accidentally weave this one in on the right side and the other end on the wrong side.